has not returned, missing. The loved ones are left completely in the dark about the cause of the disappearance. They do not know where to start to look, if they need to go and search, or whether they should stay at home and not miss a call. On the 3rd of June in the Netherlands, it's the National Day for those left behind. There is a remembrance ceremony at this monument for those left behind. There is a pause in the search, in the waiting and hoping for a sign of life or some sign of clarity. I am pleased and grateful to be standing here today, to be here together with you who are familiar with this suffering. Our job is to find people, preferably alive. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. It also happens that we do not find someone. As long as their loved one is missing, no day will go by that they are not confronted in their daily life with their loss. Also, reports of the discovery of human remains that have been found impacts those left behind. 6 years ago, I was given a single job. This was to improve the process of retrieving missing persons. I would like to share with you some of the practical challenges that I came across during this assignment. And based on 3 cases, I want to take you through operational challenges in the process itself. One of the first questions I asked myself when I received my assignment was, who is missing? In searching for my answer, I learned that the intake process, dus the reports of missing persons in the Netherlands, came through various intake channels. And that these reports were registered in different local systems. This meant that there was no national report of registration of missing persons, because the local systems were not interlinked. I also found out that the records of missing persons and unidentified bodies, there was no evidence of a criminal act, were destroyed after 5 years because of privacy rules. So issues of missing persons and unidentified bodies that were not solved, but were listed as an accident or a suicide, that information was no longer preserved. These 2 practical issues were not easily solved. Changes from a local registration system to a national system and changes in the privacy laws is not something that can happen overnight. So it turned out that the simple question, who is missing then, does not have one answer. And I was quite surprised. Immediately I understood the importance of improving the process of finding missing persons. We need to know who we are searching for. This situation should sound familiar to you, to some of you. If it does, raise your hand. Does this sound similar to you? Do you recognize these challenges? Exactly. Evidence shows the Netherlands proved to be no exception. On December 11th in 2012, the European Commission held a one-day member state expert meeting in the context of a study to collect and analyze data on missing children in Europe. In the first mapping report, the following was announced. First, it was unable to form a good picture of the children who were missing in Europe. Second, the definition of a lost child did not appear to be synonymous in each country. And third, there was confusion about which categories of missing children in Europe the European Commission wanted to list. Were the runaways missing children? And what about unaccompanied migrant minors? Should they also be on this list? These practical issues are difficult to solve, even now, but they form a basis to cooperate at an international level. Hopefully, during this conference, today, we can take some meaningful steps. As in your countries, we went to work on improving the process of missing persons. In the Netherlands, we have had a great amount of support from our colleagues. The Belgian Missing Persons Bureau, you're over there. From them, we learned lessons. We shared research results that we used to organize and improve our process. But also the international meetings, such as the first international conference for missing children and adults in 2013 in Portland helped us. This was organized by CEOP Missing Persons and the Missing Persons Bureau of England. You are here too. Where are you? England. Over there. That's a great conference. And Missing Children Europe, you are here too. Where are you? Over there. They organized the second conference in 2015. And activities from different NGOs helped, such as Foundation Emballer, sitting over there. Sorry, here, Missing Children Europe, here, Emballer Europe. They assist countries in Europe with the establishment of a child alert system. Well, in brief, on our own initiative, we all worked together in recent years. This has led to improvements in our work, raising awareness on themes that play, and has created an informal network. Hopefully in the future, there will be no need to wait for each other's initiatives. And that today we have the opportunity to find the motives to form a platform of missing persons and have a yearly conference. So, now I'll move on and tell you about the operational challenges. In the Netherlands, we distinguish 3 clear phases of disappearance. The first phase is the first 48 hours. An example of the first phase is the disappearance of the 11-year-old Joanna. She did not arrive at school. This was very unusual compared to her normal behavior. She had good grades, she had friends, and she had no problems with other children, and her parents did not have any relationship problems. I hear you talking all the time, sorry. The disappearance was assessed as urgent, and the police sent via social media a local message to the civilians asking if anyone had seen Joanna. Joanna was found many hours later and kilometers away from someone, or from a tip from someone who had actually seen her. That morning, on the road to school on her bike, Joanna realized that she was going to lose her father. And the grief that came to her was overwhelming. And with all these emotions in her, she didn't have enough courage to go to school. And therefore, she continued on cycling for hours on end. This disappearance was resolved within 24 hours, as happens with most similar disappearances. About 80% of the 40,000 reported missing in the Netherlands are resolved within 48 hours. Fortunately, nothing else had happened to Joanna, and she was returned safely. But in the first 48 hours of a disappearance, the person can be found deceased or hurt. Therefore, any disappearance should directly be seriously assessed, registered in SIS, and reported. It's the task of the local police to recognize the disappearances where direct search actions, the use of an immediate alert, and interventions of the police really is needed. In these cases, they can turn to the specialist or the National Bureau for advice. The police do not have the capacity and the means to act this way with every disappearance, and it's not always necessary. But how do you achieve this expertise during the registration of a disappearance? And when do you decide to inform the citizen and call in their help? And how do you define a search area? These are the challenges we faced in phase 1. Of the 40,000 reports of disappearances, about 20% of these people are still missing after 48 hours. We call this phase 2 in the disappearance case. For example, Soldier Eric. He went out on different missions in Afghanistan for Peace Corps. Everything seemed fine until he disappeared with his car. After his disappearance, it was found that he had bought a bottle of vodka. Eric did not normally drink, so that would be a deviation from his normal behavior. On the other hand, it was seen as a sign of life, and there were doubts about the urgency. It was decided not to request media coverage for this disappearance. Days later, Eric's car was found across the border in Germany, and thanks to an alert he sits, of course. Netherlands submitted a police request to Germany to search in the vicinity of the sighting of the car. The car was found in a large forest area with a small hotel. The staff of the hotel recognized Eric from a photo the German police had through SIS. They indicated that he looked confused and that they saw him walking into the woods. After a few days, Eric's body was found dead in the forest. He had committed suicide. At the phase 2 disappearance, we have not found the missing person within 48 hours at the most logical places, or we have not been able to define a search area. In this phase, we have two challenges. First, it's very critical that the registration in SIS is correctly performed, and that means furnished with as much information as possible, a very good identifying picture of the missing person, and links of the missing persons to identifying objects such as a car. Unfortunately, most of the SIS registrations are not complete. Veerle Kleerhout of the European Commission will tell us more about this later today. The second challenge is when the disappearance needs the collaboration with another country. It could be difficult if there is not a criminal offense involved. In these cases, a police request is not mandatory and therefore is not always followed up. Therefore, an international platform of missing persons could bring more attention to both of these issues, and this can lead to more improvements in the process. In the Netherlands, there are about 100 people who remain missing after 1 year. Even in your country, you have people who are still missing after many years. We call this phase 3. In 2010, the cold case team from the Amsterdam police started exhuming unidentified bodies that were buried in the cemetery in their city. Their motto is, every unidentified death is a missing person. Thus they focused on the phase 3 disappearances. Eventually, in 2010, they exhumed 19 unidentified bodies to collect as much identifying information as possible. With this information, they processed an Interpol black notice for each unidentified death. They exhumed a body of a woman who was found in 2003 unwell in a lift of a flat in the Bijlmer in Amsterdam. She died. The cause appeared to be a large number of balls of cocaine that she had swallowed, and which of some had burst. Her identity, despite many efforts in 2003, was not found, and therefore she was buried as an unidentified dead. Fortunately, her dossier contained a lot of information, including her fingerprints. So in 2010, the cold case team in Amsterdam included these fingerprints in the black notice of Interpol. And soon after, there followed a match with the fingerprints of Sarah, who had been registered as missing in Italy in 2001. When in 2011, her son Luca was told his mother was found, he had been searching for her for 10 years. Luca informed the police that his mother Sarah disappeared suddenly when he was little. Her disappearance was correctly registered in SIS. In the police files, her fingerprints were included, but this information was not yet internationally shared in 2001. A few years later, did this happen, but only when her black notice with complete information was shared in 2010, was a match finally made. Presently, all the cold case teams in the Netherlands focus on unidentified deaths. They have successfully identified a number of these deaths and returned them to their family and loved ones. Most of these disappearances were found to have originated in your countries. In the Netherlands, there are still 1,600 people missing, and at this moment there are around 700 DNA profiles from unidentified deaths, from which we believe that they are missing from your country. The files from the Phase 3 missing persons and the unidentified death should be revisited and verified that all the information is included in the present international systems. That would help solve the challenge in Phase 3. Carlos Schippers will give a presentation later this day on these cold case disappearances. I have shared with you, I have shared with you the different challenges I encountered in my work. I mentioned these practical aspects and these operational aspects. To conclude, I hope you agree we need to establish an international platform to work together to solve these operational and practical challenges, so we can increase the chances of retrieving the missing persons. Wouldn't it be tremendous if we could realize this together today? Because when a missing person is found, only then the pain will cease. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schijf, for your interesting presentation. Outlining from Dutch perspective